Chapter 1. The Breathing. Elena pressed her ear against the pillow, trying to block out the sound that had been plaguing her for 3 weeks. In and out, but not her breathing. Multiple sets of lungs moving in perfect synchronization, filling her bedroom with a rhythm that made her skin crawl. She held her breath. The room fell silent. The moment she exhaled, the breathing resumed, matching her pace exactly. Whatever was in her room was learning from her, mimicking every breath she took. She could feel invisible chests rising and falling around her bed, surrounding her in a chorus of respiratory harmony that shouldn't exist. Elena sat up, fumbling for the bedside lamp. Light flooded the room, revealing nothing but familiar furniture and shadows, yet the breathing continued, unaffected by illumination. She counted at least 6 distinct patterns, all synchronized to her own panicked gasps. "What do you want?" she whispered into the darkness. The breathing stopped, then, slowly, began again, but faster now, excited, as if her acknowledgement had pleased whatever lurked in the spaces between her exhales. Elena didn't sleep that night, or the next. The breathing grew louder with each passing evening, more confident, until she could feel warm air against her neck from lungs that cast no shadow. Chapter 2. The Invitation. Rebecca stared at the note on her nightstand, written in her own careful handwriting. "The Bedtime family misses you. Please join us beneath the sheets tonight." She had no memory of writing it, none whatsoever. This was the 7th note in 2 weeks, each more detailed than the last. They described meetings held in the space between sleep and waking, gatherings of creatures who had been watching humans rest for centuries. The handwriting was unmistakably hers. The same loop on the G, the same slant to the Y. Rebecca crumpled the paper and threw it away, only to find it smoothed and placed back on her nightstand the next morning, along with a new message. "Denial makes the invitation stronger. We know you feel us watching." She installed cameras, reviewed footage. Nothing, just her, sleeping peacefully, while mysterious notes appeared as if materializing from her own unconscious mind. The latest note included a detailed map of her apartment, marking every corner where family members waited during her sleep. Room behind the mirror, one note read, "Space under the bed, inside the pillow where dreams leak through. We've prepared a place for you." Rebecca began sleeping in her living room, but the notes followed, always in her handwriting. Always speaking of family, of belonging, of finally accepting what had always been there in the darkness of every bedroom she'd ever known. The most recent note was different. "Tonight we stop waiting. The invitation becomes a summons." Chapter 3. The Weight. Michael's mattress groaned under impossible pressure as he approached his bed after another 12-hour shift. The indentation was human-shaped but far too large, as if something massive had been lying there, waiting for his return. He pulled back the covers. Nothing, just compressed foam and wrinkled sheets that held the warmth of something that shouldn't exist. The weight remained, making the bed sag dramatically on one side. When Michael sat down, he felt the presence shift, accommodating his body while maintaining its own massive form. Sleep came despite his fear, and with it, dreams of sharing his bed with something that breathed like a sleeping giant. He woke to find himself pressed against the wall, his body having unconsciously made room for a bedmate that left no visible trace. Each night, the weight grew heavier. The mattress began to crack under the strain. Michael placed pressure sensors under the bed. They registered over 300 pounds of consistent weight distributed in a human silhouette. Something was definitely there, something that watched him sleep from mere inches away. The weight began moving during the night, shifting, rolling over. The mattress would creak and sag as his invisible companion changed positions, sometimes pressing against Michael's back with the solid warmth of another body. He could feel it studying him, learning his sleep patterns, mimicking his movements. On the seventh night, Michael woke to find actual indentations in the pillow beside his own, deep impressions where a head had rested, still warm to the touch. The weight was becoming more solid, more real, as if his acknowledgement was giving it physical form. Whatever shared his bed was no longer content to simply watch. It wanted to be seen. Chapter 4. The Warmth. David's thermal camera showed the truth his eyes couldn't accept. A massive heat signature pressed against his sleeping form, conforming perfectly to every curve of his body. The temperature readings were impossible. 110 degrees, far too hot for human survival, yet David slept peacefully through it all. Every morning he woke drenched in sweat, his skin bearing faint red marks where something had touched him during the night. The marks formed patterns, handprints, but with fingers too long, too many joints. Whatever was generating the heat was studying him with deliberate, methodical attention. David tried sleeping elsewhere, but the warmth followed. Hotel rooms, friends' couches, even camping trips, the temperature would spike exactly where he lay down, as if something had claimed him as its personal source of fascination. The thermal signatures grew more detailed each night, showing not just one presence but multiple heat sources surrounding his bed like curious observers. The touching became bolder. David would wake to find his clothes rearranged, his hair carefully arranged in new patterns, his skin bearing the impression of careful examination. Something was mapping every inch of his body, memorizing him through heated touch. Security footage revealed nothing, but the thermal evidence was undeniable. Each night brought new heat signatures, dozens of them now, pressing close, studying, learning. The temperature readings climbed higher, 115 degrees, 120, far beyond what should be survivable. David began to understand that whatever watched him sleep wasn't trying to harm him. It was trying to understand him, to learn what it meant to be human by studying his most vulnerable moments. The heat was curiosity made manifest, a tension so intense it became physical. The final thermal image showed something that made David's blood freeze. The heat signatures had begun to cool, settling into a temperature that matched his own body heat exactly. Whatever had been studying him was learning to become him. Chapter 5. The Scratching. 11:47 p.m. The scratching began exactly on schedule, just as it had every night for 6 weeks. Sarah pressed her ear to the bedroom wall, listening to the methodical sounds that spelled out letters, then words, then entire sentences meant specifically for her. Tonight the message was longer than usual. Sarah Elizabeth Morrison, born March 15, 1987, afraid of drowning, dreams of flying, lied to her mother about the car accident. Every personal detail was correct, every secret true. The scratching knew things about Sarah that she'd never told anyone, scraping her life story into the walls with deliberate precision. Whatever lived inside the walls had been watching her for far longer than 6 weeks. She'd moved apartments twice, but the scratching followed, always at 11:47 p.m., always spelling out her deepest truths and patterns only she could understand. The sound came from inside every wall now, surrounding her with the whisper of claws against wood and plaster. "What do you want?" Sarah whispered to the walls. The scratching stopped, then resumed with frantic energy. Want Sarah to know, want Sarah to understand. Been watching since childhood bedroom, since first nightmare, time to meet. Sarah's blood went cold. Her childhood bedroom, she remembered strange sounds in the walls, dismissed as mice or settling wood. The scratching had been following her for decades, patient and observant, learning everything about her through careful surveillance. The sounds grew louder, more insistent, multiple sets of claws now, dozens of them, scratching simultaneously from every wall. The message they spelled was simple but terrifying. Coming out now, time to meet the Bedtime family. Cracks appeared in the wallpaper. Something was pushing through from the other side. ready to make itself known after years of hidden observation. Sarah finally understood that bedtime monsters weren't childhood fantasies outgrown, but adult truths finally acknowledged. The wall began to bulge outward, and Sarah realized her education in the truth about bedtime monsters was about to begin. The scratching stopped, the breathing quieted, the weight lifted, the warmth faded, the invitations ceased, but only because they were no longer needed. The bedtime family had found their new members,